Kagurabachi is officially here to stay. We have officially closed out the first arc of this series, and we are officially moving into the second arc with chapter 19. And man, what a finale it has been. In this video, I just wanted to talk about not only chapter 18, but also bits of chapters from the series as a whole so far, and what I've really enjoyed, what I've kind of disliked, and what I think I'd also enjoy is you hitting that subscribe button while you're here. We finally have our resolution to Chihiro versus Sojo, and it really was a fucking climactic ending. And we see Chihiro heavily wounded from Sojo, who attempted a last-ditch effort to basically discharge a Mei attack in order to take out Chihiro and possibly even take out himself, but he didn't foresee Chihiro would be ruthless enough to actually break Cloud Gouger, which it's incredibly interesting seeing this change and this growth from Chihiro within these 18 chapters, because in chapter 1 we had Chihiro give us this absolute edgelord meme material of every morning I wake up with a fresh hatred, to now in chapter 18 who is someone who cares a lot for Shaw and someone who is willing to die to protect, and also from someone who wanted not only to reclaim the Mr. Katanas, but now in comparison to who he is now, who's arrived at the path that destroying them may also be an option for him also. The growth has actually been kind of insane for an 18 chapter span here. However, even though Cloud Gouger was broken, it can be possibly repaired by Chihiro himself, because remember, this dude has watched and learned everything from his papi here. It's entirely possible that Chihiro can repair the blade and wield both Cloud Gouger and N10 simultaneously, maybe? Considering Sojo is now dead, and the latest chapter dropped information letting us know that if someone was wielding a Mr. Katana, then no one else would be able to use those abilities, basically. It's what's known as a lifelong contract. Now, you can call this some copium. More than open to that being called copium, but if Sojo isn't dead, it's possible we'll find out more as Chihiro has repaired the Cloud Gouger, possibly, and then tries to use it. When those abilities don't activate, it's entirely possible that's when we'll find out that Sojo is actually still alive. And maybe this is just pure, unrefined, unfiltrated copium right here, but Sojo as a villain genuinely felt too good to not have him develop. Maybe I'm just in straight up denial here, but I should be used to this. As a Jujutsu Kaisen fan, I should be used to this. And I know Sojo's death was confirmed, and if the Mr. Katana's responds to the owner's wants and needs, there's also the possibility that Sojo went out screaming about Rokuhira, and he was also holding on to the Daten Sekai. So that is a material that is made to form the Mr. Katanas. So if the Katanas responds to the owner's wants and needs, and he went out screaming about something that he wanted and needed while holding the source material of these blades, maybe he's not dead. I'm just saying, I can't let it lie. Maybe this will be my copium point throughout the entirety of the series. But we do also get this panel of Shaw trying and failing to heal Chihiro's arm here, which goes back to what I said in the previous review of these injuries. In this series, injuries are not something that seem to be able to be healed so easily. That's probably why Shaw is so valuable within this series. And we get another example of this with Kazane here, sitting in the hospital bed, and his arm isn't healed. He obviously lost his arm during his fight with Sojo and the Sojo Extermination Squad here. So it does make me wonder whether Chihiro will ever get his arm back, or whether he'll choose to keep it the way it is. Because remember back in chapter 1, this brother mentioned how he didn't want to get rid of the scar on his face as it served as a reminder. He might possibly choose to live with just the one arm as a reminder of what Sojo, of who he was and what he's done and how far he actually pushed Chihiro and how much he challenged Chihiro's way of thinking and his philosophy on life. And maybe that's just, maybe it's cope. But it is entirely possible that we end up with a one-arm Chihiro, or maybe even a Chihiro with a mecha arm similar to Guts. We did get that one panel way back in chapter 2 with Chihiro looking awfully similar to this Guts panel from Berserk here, so maybe Takeru is a fan of Berserk. Who fucking knows? I'm sorry, my doggo is just doing an absolute shake. Do you have anything to add? I don't think he has anything to add. However, we do get to meet the higher-ups of the Kamunabi here, which I can't lie, it gives me heavy Bleach-inspired vibes, and I wonder if the Sojo Extermination Squad that we saw were only essentially vice-captains, kind of the Kamunabi here, and that these dudes are actually the big powers that be within the series. We see them talking about the events that have transpired and how Sojo basically wiped out all of the Extermination Squad except for 2, which is Kazane and Ikuto. And Kazane, we actually get a little bit of a focus on here during the Kamunabi's talk, talks, and Kazane agrees that he won't reveal Azami's plans or relationship with Chihiro, but he can't agree to those blades still being around. They can't be in existence, which corrects a point that I made, because in the previous chapter I mentioned how Chihiro had arrived at the mentality that the blades don't need to exist, but it turns out that was actually Kazami saying this, which I'm actually shocked about, because I actually genuinely thought that was actually a change in mentality for Chihiro, because it reflected him destroying the blade as well. So I stand corrected here. But it seems as if the Kamunabi they've never even heard of Chihiro or his existence, and even the Seventh Blade at all. They've heard rumors. Meaning Rokuhira had a son in complete secrecy here, which is quite the interesting development, and obviously that's already been kind of hinted. The Kamunabi have no record. They've only heard rumors and hints of him. Kinda hope that we get to learn a little bit more about that. Takeru keeps hitting us with these nice little moments, these little flashbacks of Chihiro and his father during really relevant moments, and it's been pretty consistent throughout the series, so I would love to see more of that. That is definitely a plus to the series as a whole so far. But it seems as if the Kamunabi have decided that Chihiro, along with Enten and Cloud Gouger, need to be retrieved ASAP. Fucking Rocky right now. And on that development, they have decided to send out their quote-unquote strongest fighter, which is an incredibly interesting development, I must say. We're introduced to this character named Hiyuki, who has been authorized to use something known or named as Flamebone, which is a fucking gas name for an ability. I can't lie here, but only up to the torso. Now, at first thought when I read this, I was thinking maybe this is just another Mr. Katana, Cloud Gouger, Flamebone. It kind of sounds like a Mr. Katana. I don't know, but I also think it could just be some incredibly powerful sorcery. We know the Sojo squad, they all had powerful sorcery to keep Sojo at bay and contain him with a well thought out plan, and to push him to the limits. He needed to use Cloud Gouger to the capabilities and the extent that we saw him use it against Chihiro. So they were strong enough with just basic sorcery, well, advanced sorcery, to push him to that level. So that makes me wonder if this is the Kamunabi's strongest fighter. It is potentially someone who was wielding a Mr. Katana. I also like the idea that when they were talking about these Mr. Katanas, there was a couple of characters here that was shown specifically, and I wonder if these are previous owners of the Mr. Katanas, and it's the way of the Kamunabi to keep these owners alive and make sure that even if someone did actually steal any of these katanas, it's to make sure that these guys are the previous users and they're never able to use the powers ever again. Well, I remember when the series first started, and I think I said this in the first ever video for this, I like the fact that we're starting at the point where Chihiro's already got power. He's already gone through his training arc, and we're not doing the standard shonen trope of the weak protag becomes the strong protag over the course of a training arc, which is typically what happens in shonen. I mean, not to say we'll probably end up getting that at some point. That's kind of nice that we kind of skipped out the middleman here, but it's going to be interesting seeing what's next in this arc and what it holds for us. I'm excited for it overall. I would say that this first arc for Kagurabachi has been incredible. As far as first arc go within manga, I think I would rate it a solid 8 out of 10. I think it's a really solid first arc. First 18 chapters. Quite a short arc, to be fair, but a really fucking good one, to be honest with you. And I really like the character of Chihiro. He seems edgy on a surface level, and there's definitely more to his character than meets the eye. And over the course of these 18 chapters, you actually get to see glimpses of that depth. And characters like Shaw, Shiba, and Sojo only serve to not only grow their own characters, but also advance the storyline with Chihiro and the plot as a whole. But they also bring up and elevate Chihiro's character, and obviously, not to mention Rokuhira, his own dad, who we don't actually get to meet properly within the series outside of flashbacks and time skip stuff. But those characters existing in basically different timelines are really nice. It's a nice, unique thing. We're getting to see his dad. We get to see the personality of his dad. And while this is all happening in tandem, it's all elevating Chihiro and the story as a whole. So overall, this first arc has been stunning. What I didn't like is I would like to see more on the power system. It has this really unique power system around these swords and the sorcery, but we don't really know how the sorcery works, how it's set up. We've got brief hints of stuff, but I'm hoping within this next arc, we'll get to see more and more about that. Maybe if my theory pans out about Chihiro repairing Cloud Gouger, we might get to see more and more depth on how the Mr. Katanas work, and maybe even how sorcery works. But overall, first arc has been fucking stunning. I'm incredibly excited to see where the series goes, but as always, that is everything from me. As always, I will catch you guys all in the next one. Much love, big fucking kisses, peace.